start my little stopwatch here. We'll get ready to rock and roll. All right, so good morning. Obviously, as Brenda said, I'm Trey, co-founders of Recruitify. My business partner, Will Newman, couldn't be here. He's going to be on a webinar here in about an hour, so hopefully everybody can forgive us for him not being here. You guys can hopefully meet him one day. Before I get started, I wanted to talk about really, why we're doing this, because I think it's important, probably more important than really, what it is that we're doing or, what our product does. So, we're very passionate about what we do. We believe in our idea and our vision, and really what we want to do is challenge the amateur athletics industry in terms of how people share and consume their information. Because right now, we believe that the industry is just a mess and so underserved and just very disorganized. So I feel like that's probably the most important thing that I'll probably say today, because why we're doing it, I think, is more important than really anything that we do as far as it goes about the product. Okay. So I want everybody to look at these three circles here. You'll probably notice something about them. They're not connected. And inside of each of these circles are going to be business processes that each of them do. So I want to talk about the stakeholders and what they do and who they are. So the event director, who's responsible for the event management, what he's going to do is he's going to have a process of registration and scheduling and doing those things for the event and putting that on to make sure that the teams and the college coaches get there. And then you've got the team management, and what these guys are going to do is it's going to be the teams, the moms, the team coaches, and all of those people who are involved in that, and they have to organize all of their information as it relates to their money, to their apparel, and to their roster information, and as to who's playing. When we look at the prospects, this is going to be the college coaches who are going to be recruiting all of these athletes at these recruiting events. So what they're going to need to do is figure out who these athletes are, manage that information, and then determine who those prospects are going to be for them moving forward, so that they can determine who's going to ultimately play on their team. And as we look at the circles again, they're not connected. And so what this leads to is that redundancy of business processes and lack of accurate information, and people just being very inefficient. And that's where we want to come in with our platform and really connect everything together, because whenever you have three different processes that need to sort of communicate together, there's a lot of extra stuff that really takes on and just creates a mess for everybody. So our solution is this platform that we've begun to build, and inside of this platform, everybody can be connected. And so if we look up at the top, this is actually a continuous cycle here of information being shared across the team and the event director and then the college coach. And so what we do is we actually connect all three of them. And if we go back to those three circles that weren't connected, we can actually start building up a story here and look at the tryouts to where we capture the information from the team, and they can start building their team, and then they can manage all of that information as it relates to their apparel, as it relates to their money and who's paid and who hasn't paid, and then they can also communicate with their team coaches, mom and dad, and all of those people. So that piece of the circle is that team management piece. Then when you start talking about, and keep in mind that all of this works together, so there's no sort of disconnect between all of them. They're all sharing this information together, because it's important that we take all of this data from each particular point in the circle, and then we actually connect that with everybody so that they get the information that they need. And so as we go into the registration part, this is going to be where the event director actually comes in and does his part, so that he has his event management tool, but the teams can interact with that. And then what they can do is they can register for those events, and then as they do that, the event director can come in and do a scheduling, put the schedule together of the teams that are going to play, who they're going to play against, and then the college coaches do their prospect management piece, and they can get all of that information and start a recruiting process, and then from there, they can take all of that information and put it into the management application for them to really understand who they're targeting and who they want to recruit and bring to the program. So how this thing works, so it's really simple. I was talking with a friend last night, and I was talking to her about how these event directors do this, and it's a process of 5 minutes of simply creating your event, and you list it, you define your pricing, and then the teams can come in and actually do their portion here, which is actually going to be to register for the events. And so they can come in, they can register for the event, they can pay, and then the event director gets all of his money so that he knows who's going to be there, what teams are attending, and all of those things. Then the management side here, this is going to allow the teams to manage all of their information. As I said, they can do all of their apparel, all of their team communication, and then managing all of that information as it relates to the financial side of managing their team dues and all of those things. And then the recruiting side, or the recruiting portion. So I brought in this book here, which is this sort of tangible thing that the college coaches get at the event. And then what it's going to be is it's going to be this finished product of all these rosters and all this information that they're going to print, they're going to give it to the college coaches, and they're going to buy this book from $100 all the way up to $750 per coach. And so this is from Wake Forest. And so what they do is they're going to buy 10 or 15 of these every single year, and they're going to get all this information, and it's going to be pretty much stale after the event starts, or literally 3 days before the event starts. It's going to be all wrong because it's printed at FedEx 3 days before the event. And so these events are going to have, you're talking 75, 300, 400 teams. So trying to sift through all this information and determine where they're playing and who they're playing and making sure it's all right is something that we actually have taken and put it on our smartphone app so that we get rid of all of those paper packets, because as they accumulate, you're talking 15 per year. So if you're there for 4 years, you're talking 75 books, and you can't go back through that information to really understand what you've even done, let alone try to put it into a system. So we do a little bit over 100 events. It's going to be team events and individual events across the country, and we've partnered with some very strategic event directors: Boone Williams, Peach State Basketball, All Iowa Attack, and these guys are going to put on some large events. They're going to run 5, 10 events, but they're going to be large events, 100 teams, 200 teams, whatever it may be. So that's really how we start building up our user base of athletes. So we've got over 35,000 athletes. We've got 1,000 college coaches that use the application, have actually purchased a packet from our app and then started using that app instead of this paper here. So that's really how we get these numbers is at the events where they really drive these teams. You've got 300 teams in an event, that's 3,000 athletes. So we start getting into more and more of those events. We can start accumulating that data and then really start building up that user base. So the marketing, or the size of the market is roughly $15 billion industry. That's that's NFL money. So there's roughly 50 million amateur athletes. That's going to be at the Scholastic, which is your elementary, middle school, high school, and then it's also going to be your grassroots basketball, like a club team that's just going to play in the springtime. And so we're specifically focused on the basketball industry, which is about a 5 million athletes inside of that market. And so that's really what we're focused on doing is basketball there, having the strategic relationships with the event directors to drive all of that information so that we can build out this platform. So the competition here. So you notice that the 3 circles here are somewhat a little more connected here. However, everybody's playing in their own lane, and they're still disconnected. Everybody does their own thing, and then there's some partnerships in the industry where they sort of share this information across each other, which is cool, but it really doesn't solve the problem and efficiently share that information across the platform. And so that's where we fit in. We're going to fit in right there in the center to where we connect all 3 of these core things: the prospect, the team, and then the event management piece inside of the application. So our team here, we've got a great team of very smart people who help us. We've got 2 customers who were actually customers and now become investors. One of them is on the men's side, and one of them is on the women's side. And then also over here, we've got Will, my business partner, who handles the operations side. I'm the technology guy. I'm the idea guy. So everything that we've come up with is through the 2 of us, and we come up with all of these ideas by talking with people in the market and really creating them ourselves. And we're not reliant upon other competitors of ours to form partnerships so that they do one thing or they do 2 things and then we do the other. All right, so this is the most important thing. This is why we're here. We're looking for investors who are interested in data, technology, sports, information technology. So we're looking to raise $300,000. And what that's going to help us do is that's going to help us efficiently scale out our software platform so that we can start targeting more of these events and growing our revenue streams. And so we'll look here at our current revenue streams. We've got 3 streams. We've got team registration, camp registration, and then we generate revenue from the coach packets that are sold through our mobile app. You'll notice here in this pie, there's a large piece that's missing, and that is what the opportunity is with us moving forward. And so what we want to do is we want to build out this team management side of the application. And so as we look at the number of athletes, you've got 5 million athletes in the basketball industry alone, and then you've got 50 million that play in the amateur arena. So when you start focusing on, and I'll talk about a point that a college coach told us, it's Bart Lundy at Queens. He said there's 2 people with money in this industry. It's the parent and the college coaches. And so when you look at this team connect piece, this focuses on the athlete and mom and dad when they pay those team dues to really start building out that team management piece of the application to help us target this other piece of this pie that is not there because of our current revenue model, which is a little more seasonal, but it's been great to really build up that presence of events across the country to prove that model that we can actually go target and service these event directors, and then we still have this large opportunity with the Team Connect, and then also the workspace, which is going to connect all of these individual college coaches who have these accounts. And then what they can do is they can start building out that prospect management tool inside of our platform that connects the entire staff, so that when I go to an event and then the other assistant goes to another event, we can share that information together and really start connecting them. So I want to thank everybody for their time, and if anybody's got any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I know that was a lot of information.
Thank you, Trey. Go ahead.
Yes?
Yep.
Why don't you look at non-dilutive financing ways? Like, I look at volleyball camp, which I have the privilege of paying for, and I'm shocked at what I have to buy to sort of make sure my daughter fits into whatever the team needs that year. It's new stuff every year.
Yeah.
Like, you do sign a deal with Hicks for $300K to push
Yeah, no question.
basketball parents to buy the right socks and the right color shorts for their kid to show up at camp or whatever. You get $300K right there when you're not taking any dilution.
Yeah, no question. Hicks actually has their own sort of, it's called Blue Sombrero, and so they have their own sort of software where they've gone to this market and done that. But a lot of the problems is that these companies, and I think that's why there's this, when we look at those 3 circles, these companies focus on every single sport for that particular industry. So for example, the team management, these guys are going to focus on the 50 million and just focus on providing team management software. But that doesn't do anybody any good when they go and register for the events, because they then say, okay, well, I've got my information in Blue Sombrero, but I'm going to register for an event. Now I've got to extract that and send it in an Excel file to the event director. So, that's a problem, and certainly, we've certainly thought about going that route of saying, can we go to an East Bay or a Dick's Sporting Goods and say, look, here's what we've got. I talked to an East Bay guy 3 weeks ago up in Louisville, and so the problem I think for them is that they, for East Bay, they're rolling out this new SAP system, and their supply chain and all of this is whatever it is over there. So their focus, I don't know, is exactly where we want it to be in terms of providing the software and then really seeing the value. Hey, look, you can go talk to these, 25,000 athletes and these 50,000 teams, and you can provide them with your SKUs and say, look, if you need a pair of socks, come in here and buy all of this stuff in our platform. And I think that's where we can get to, because that's where the true value is in terms of the data that we're capturing with the athletes, and then going into this application and saying, all right, I need new socks, I need new shoes, and all of this. And then Dick's or East Bay and these companies are your vendors for that. So it's definitely an opportunity to go talk with those larger companies. East Bay's owned by Foot Locker, is a $7 billion company.
Yep.
They really don't see this as value when I think it's huge.
They don't.
Well, my only point is, having done 3 startups, I rush to go and get a round of financing done because it's the lifeblood of the business. And every time you do that, you sell a portion of your soul. There's got to be some non-dilutive financing options here that keep you whole and ultimately translate to a revenue model. And if you basically provide the back end of your system as the acquisition platform for whoever it is, and you simplify the acquisition, it gets fulfilled through Hicks or whoever. That is real value because you're not going from one site to another. You don't chance losing the customer, that sort of stuff. And from an ad, it's the equivalent of a $300,000 ad campaign. That's pretty good for something like basketball.
There's no question. We've actually talked with our attorney Ray Robbins, and there is and I asked him if he was familiar with it. It's called a safe, simple. What is it? Simple. For future equity. It's a future document for future equity. And what it is you ask for this money, somebody gives you the money, and then they get a discount on what that on what the valuation of the company is when you go raise a more larger round. So that could be something that we explore. SAFE is actually simple agreement for future equity. That's what I was getting caught up on the A and what that stood for.
I've got a question for you, Trey.
Yeah.
Two, actually.
Yeah.
The first is, what do you find as the biggest barrier to adoption? And then second, from a customer feedback perspective, and competitive, going back to the earlier slide that you had, are there a lot of systems or team management systems that the client has to log into, so it feels like this is yet another portal that I have to log into, or do you find that that's not really that much of a concern?
No, so the first question is, remind me, what was
The barrier to adoption.
The barrier to adoption is, this industry is filled with lazy. So they use what they're used to, paper. They are very, very much so creatures of habit. And we realize that, and we know that every single customer that we've acquired, which is the 10 or 12 event directors, which are really the driving force behind our growth, we met every single one of them, and we never knew them before we talked with them because somebody else introduced us. So that is something that takes time, and that's something that we have to fight against, because in this industry, sports industry is something that is very, it's a fraternity, and these guys, once you get inside of the circle, you can start making your moves. But if you're out of the circle, it's very tough to get in, and so we have to be very strategic to find those guys who are credible and who have who put on really good tournaments. They're not just 20 team or 15 teams. So that's something that is tough. And then to your second question about the competition.
Yeah, that's kind of leading me into the second question around the competition is, I would imagine too, with that laziness factor that you mentioned as well. Like,
oh my God.
Is there resistance in terms of, this is yet another portal that I have to sign into, and what are your thoughts?
So basketball, I wish I had the picture of it. This lady, you're talking, I'll talk about a guy in Minnesota. He's got 110 teams. This guy keeps up with a high school of 1,100 kids. He's got 2nd grade all the way through 12th grade, and he's got red, blue, black, purple, all of this. So he uses, to automate, he's got a very financial problem there. He does almost $750,000 in team registration. And so he can't even auto draft from a credit card without having 3 windows up in PayPal, and then his calendar. He actually puts a reminder to go in and auto draft these people's credit cards for an auto draft, which is technically not an auto draft because he's having to key it in. So a lot of the basketball market doesn't use anything because it's all volunteer based. They just try to piecemeal it together. There's some of the more professional, I wouldn't say professional, but some of the more sophisticated teams, use competitors of ours like league apps and all these other things. But when we talk to them and we say, look, instead of using league apps, just use us, and then when you go register for the events, you don't have to do anything. Like, you've already got your team built, you do your tryouts, and then because we have the event director in the platform, they just register right there. So they're not having to go back and forth. And so we have to connect the dots for them to say, look, here's what you're doing right now. You're using 3, 4, 5 different systems. Just use one for everything, and you're good to go moving forward. Yeah.
Two questions. One, what is your revenue model for generating on the recruiting side? And two, once you kind of like have built this out on basketball, do you plan to
Oh, yes.
take this to other sports?
Yes, yes. Everybody asks that. They're like, what can you know, why are you focused on basketball? And again, we don't want to focus on anything with basketball, because when you try to do that, you end up like our competition. You say, look, let's just say 50 million people, we'll just do team management. We're not worried about the scheduling. We'll let somebody else do that. Why? Like, it's so dumb. But to answer your point about the workspace, so right now, if you look at the prospect management, those guys are going to be focused on like your arms, like your jump forward. These are going to be larger companies who focus on the D1 market because they have all the money. So they'll go in and outfit the entire athletic department. And so they're going to provide everything like concessions and keeping up with jerseys and all of this. And so they're going to charge, like Ohio State, they're going to pay $300,000 per year for the software. You go to a D2 or D3, or you go to UNC Central or North Carolina Central, they ain't paying that. And so where we come in is we're focused just on this basketball solution. We don't care about concessions and all of that. Right. So the revenue model there is to charge that basketball program for the software platform for them to access all of this information and to keep up with these packets, and then to also do a really big piece that is underserved is the team camp. So like you go to NC State's women's basketball camp, it's all paper. And so they'll have the girls fill it out and they'll email it or snail mail it back, and they'll try to keep up with that. So there's a huge market for the team camp side because again, that's data. The more athletes we get, they're already going to be in there, and so we can really start focusing on that college coach market. Some of competitors are already in there. Fast Model, they charge about $3,000 or $4,000 to some of these programs, and then they give smaller schools a discount, which a lot of the larger programs don't know about, and so that kind of makes them a little unhappy when they're saying, well, why am I paying the $3,000 or $4,000 for this when you're giving it away to a Tennessee State? And so their sort of model is and this is what Fast Model does. They're focused on more of how they got started was the fast draw. They do like plays and more so game day prep for competition. And they had this sort of spin-off where they focused on the recruiting side. However, what they did was they partnered with one of our competitors on the scheduling side, Exposure. So they're just saying, you guys handle the scheduling, we'll provide this software, but what happens is there's this redundancy of processes, and there's actually a delay in terms of when that information is delivered to the college coach. It's like 30 minutes. So when the scheduling is changed, the college coach has to wait 30 minutes for an update. And there's it's just a lot of back and forth, and it's like, what are they doing? And so many people ask, well, why hasn't anybody, there has to be a reason why nobody has done this. I can't speculate for that. All I can say is that everybody's so focused on getting to this $50 million or 50 million athlete number and saying, all right, I'm just going to do scheduling for every single type of tournament. Basketball, hockey. The Exposure guys do football, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever. And he's just saying, I'm just going to do scheduling. And so that's why there's this piece where we believe that we're just going to fit right in. And we've already proven that. Like there's so many, what I forgot to mention was the team management side. We actually have 2/3 of that already built out. So we're actually able to generate revenue from that right now. So we launched it back in February, had like 100 and some odd teams use it, which was 3 organizations because they have 20 teams and they have 40 teams. So it doesn't take a lot to get up that number. So we've already proven most of this. We just have to put everything together and really start building out that efficiency so that we can scale this thing out. So, everyth's proven as far as, well, do people need prospect management tools? Of course they do. Does somebody need event management? Of course they do. They got to manage their money. As it relates to, you're talking $500 per team. You got 300 teams. It's a lot of money you got to manage, and that's peanuts compared to the gate. Whenever you talk $20 admission, I mean these guys are clearing in a 3 or 4 day weekend. These guys are clearing $1.5 million easily. It's easy. $750 packet. You got 400 coaches coming in, $400 grand at the gate, 200 at admission or team registration. These guys are killing it. this happens right down in, on Fayetteville Street at the convention, so that was one of our customers, Deep South Classic, so I'm sure.
Well, we got time for one more question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So you're essentially creating a big pipeline. And I didn't hear you mention anything about the people who are going to ultimately care and really cash in big on all this. It's going to be companies like IMG and the agents,
Yes.
sports agents. I would think they'd be all over something like this,
Well, I
to
think,
look at their pipeline in a whole different way.
so we're already targeting as far as investment dollars or somebody to ultimately buy, yeah, or both.
Probably both.
Yeah, so we're targeting, that's one of our strategies too, where we're targeting an angel investor, but we're also going after high net worth ex-NBA guys. So we've got a guy who's interested to play for the Dallas Mavs, and so leveraging him and his network, you know, if you get him, and then you can get 2 or 3 other guys that he played with who are in this game, like they're still in this game, like they go leave the NBA and they're coaching grassroots teams. You look at Jason Terry, Jermaine O'Neal, who played for the Dallas Mavs. These guys got teams in Dallas, so they're already back into space, sort of, you know, giving back and doing that. I mean, you look at all of, I can name a dozen right now who played and then they're back into space, and they understand every single thing that we did because they lived it, and then they also do it for their teams, and they're so terribly unorganized. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The IMGs of the world, it's huge, but I think ultimately who really likes this is the Dick's Sporting Goods, the East Bays, your clothing guys who need to sell. I talked to the East Bay guy, he said, look, we're not worried about the first guy or the first sale. We want these people coming back, buying shoes and socks year after year. And you know, some of the stuff we've got lined up with our the team management side, we're wanting to use a software called Twilio, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, and that's something that can help our marketing with these platforms like a Dick's Sporting Goods and these sort of vendors that could come into this marketplace and talk directly to these teams and say, I need, you know, I've got your order right here. I see that you know, everybody in your team has filled out all of this information as it relates to, you know, you need 10 jerseys that are size small. You need, you know, 10 pair of shoes that are the Nike XYZ. That data right there is huge for these guys to really collect and be able to, right now, it's crazy. These teams actually send emails to their East Bay sales reps of their sizes of, hey, we got 5 smalls. And then what happens is, well, golly, Susie Q told us that she's now a medium. I gotta send you another email. So now your entire order is gonna be screwed up from your supply chain because these people are changing all of this information as it comes in and revolves. And so where we can come in is being that platform that has all of this information in real time. But yeah, I think that's a challenge for us too, is that a lot of people don't know how big amateur athletics is. I mean, when you look at the money that is spent at the college level for athletics, it's insane. And you know, the IMGs of the world, you know, those are going to be the bigger guys who want to wait and see what this thing does. But you know, you get these athletes in there, and you know, technology and analytics and all that is becoming very huge. And I think if we're able to sort of grab all of that data when it first starts at the elementary, you know, school level, as they gravitate into middle school and they play club and do all of those things, there's going to be so many data points that you have that we collect because of the platform starting at that very beginning of the life cycle of this information cycle. And honestly, you know, we talked to a guy and he said, look, he said, basketball is just a straight up cover for you guys. This thing is a data play for all of this information. And that, when he said that, we were like, he's absolutely right. And so we start targeting these events and getting that information and bringing those people in. But not just the data, it's all about creating your value too. So the data is nice at the end of the day, but we've got to get there. And the way we get there is providing all this value in that one-stop shop system for all these people.
Thank you
I need to
so
stop.
much.
Yeah, I'm done.